We're back, baby. Episode 11 of In Before the Lock, where we talk about all things mods. What's up, Davey? How you doing?
Hey, Rob from Pinball. How are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm good. I'm excited for this episode. I'm excited to have your big head on a big face with sausage. How did you like that?
Mate, I loved it. Although I did get the sneaky suspicion that it was payback for like commandeering the episode with my mod reveal.
Well, I'm excited about your mod reveal. That's the big news for the episode. I haven't actually seen it, full disclosure. I've got a little bit of a hint. I know there's one particular element that I'm super excited about. We talked a little bit about it last time, and our buddy told us he thought it was a baby shark, but I think it's probably not going to be that. Is there a shark involved?
There's no shark involved. I'm sorry, mate. I think that the market for sharks in pinball has been well and truly taken care of over the last 6 months. So there is no shark, and I'm sorry to let everybody down.
Well, we are going to see a reveal. So Davey's going to be showing off his mod, shameless promotion, and we thought it'd be really cool to get a little bit into how we do what we do. So we're going to be going through this episode. There's 6 key parts to this. Davey and I are going to be kind of going back and forth, showing you guys how we do what we do. I'm going to be moving around a little bit. I've got a couple different locations that I do my work, so I'm going to be moving between sets. But Davey's going to start us off. And Davey, this is how long you've been working on this thing, man? Has this been a little while in the works?
Yeah, man. So I've only had Jaws for a week. So you can imagine how
It's been a week.
It's been a week. I've had it for a week. It arrived last Monday. So I was very thankful that it arrived in time, so that I could actually fit test and do all the things that I needed to do, test all the triggers and stuff. But up until that point, I've been working on it blind in a way, and with the assistance and help from the modding community and others who have assisted me in doing scans of plastics, and I've been sending PDFs across the channel to get printed by Joel Engelberg so that he could fit test it in his Jaws, and very appreciative to all the people who have helped me do that. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like since since Jaws was announced, I've been sort of working on this thing, and it's been a tricky one. There's been a lot of elements to it that have taken a while to come together.
Is revealing it in this way made it any more difficult at all?
Yes, massively so. I think. Look, today's a real experiment, isn't it? Like we've not actually done a live reveal. What could possibly go wrong during a live show on a reveal? So, and then and because that wasn't difficult enough, we also decided to do multi-scene walkthroughs of our kit and how we put mods together. So it's a bit of an experiment. We'll see what happens.
Pushing the boundaries, baby. So this is drum roll. We got no drums, but this is a big deal. I'm excited. I'm curious how you're going to show us this. You got like a video or something, or are you just going to hold it up and be like, blah?
Yeah, no, we got the video. So should we just let's cut to the chase. All right,
let's do it, man. I want to see it.
Boy of Death. All right, let's hit it. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong one. Hold on. Let's try that again.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. How do we take this down?
How do we get?
All right. Get it off the screen. I just want to go.
Yeah. Not sure. Could have been better.
You like my wave? Dude, how many lights are in that thing? Like, I got to get a count. Do you even know?
Yeah, I do actually, because I wrote it for the blurb today. So in the little wraparound LED screen matrix thing, there's 192 LEDs, 1 mil by 1 mil pixels. Same type of arrays in the Elton John wraparound LED screen thing. Then in the actual resin part that's doing the water, there's like over 100 sort of larger LEDs.
Wow. So we've got really like 3 key elements. We've got the water on the base. We've got the buoy, which is like not always on, sometimes on. Wrap around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of the buoy shows like I'll just grab my camera and I'll do a little.
Yeah, we'd love to see it up close.
Yeah, hang on a sec. Right, have you got my show on stream? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Just smashed everything.
All right, I got it full screen for you.
Yeah.
Very cool. So
There we go.
you just take the plastic off that's there, and this replaces that plastic?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So it replaces, the plastic comes off, the ramp has to come out first, plastic comes off, there's some cabling underneath that attaches to the sign over here, and also the chum bucket here. And then this bit drops in place, connects up to the wiring and stuff, and then it does its thing. So the wraparound screen usually at rest shows the number 8, which was the number that was on the buoy in the movie. And this is kind of just what it does normally, just sort of rocks back and forth, being a buoy, doing its thing. and then the water, oh God, what am I doing? And then the water sort of plays like a water effect, and it sort of pulses back and forth. And then see if I can demo this. When the chum bucket gets to it, it does like a, the blood enters the water, and there's a.
Oh, so it kind of comes in and then fades away slowly each time you hit the bucket?
That's right, yeah. And it does its thing, yeah. So that's that, man.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes. And then look, what I've prepped as well over here is kind of is all of my iterations through the water. The water was really difficult to get right because the LED screen, the LED PCB that sort of is underneath the plastic there, is so close to the plastic, it actually has to sit on top of the ball habit trail there because there's no room to fit a PCB sort of any further down. So it's actually really close to the resin there, which means it was very difficult to get it diffused properly. So I had to go through loads of different iterations of that water, trying different materials and different levels of transparency, different colors to see whether I could just use normal resin. And the other difficulty is that it needed to be really tough because, as we all know, Jaws has a lot of airball issues. So it needed to be a material that if it did take a ball hit, it would survive. So that kind of meant that normal transparent and translucent resin was out because this stuff shatters really easily. So we ended up going with like a resin, but one that was a lot more heavy duty, and then it was vac formed by hand to make the final result, which was this one. Likewise, the LED screen, that wraparound LED screen, went through a ton of different iterations. It was originally just going to be like a square sort of thing in 3 different panels. And then we went with a wraparound version, which is a lot more fun And that's the final one there. You can see how flexible that stuff is. And then all the different versions of the buoy before getting to the final one, which is that. Yeah.
So it looks like the coloring or the lighting of the water is kind of augments the existing water effect in the fin hit. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. So, I mean, the chum line on Jaws is a really cool feature and effect. And so, what I wanted to do was recreate that as much as possible in the water, and then also replicate when the chum line goes red by that chum bucket. It does that quite nicely. It sort of matches in with the light blue of the water around that area. The cool thing about it is the pred sort of some extensible outputs of this, so that if we did want to continue it further down with these other plastics around here and around here, then we could do so. But yeah, we'll get this one out first, then we'll kind of think about what areas after that.
We're losing your audio a little bit, Davey. Just a heads
probably
up.
Because I'm probably.
Yeah.
It's because I'm away from the mic, probably.
Anyway, we've got some great comments coming in. We appreciate that, guys. Of course, the typical "take my money" comment, which is always fun to see. You're a genius, apparently. We're loving the blood animation. Yeah, I mean, all in all, like super awesome. Congratulations. How's it feel to finally have it out there?
A bit of a relief, to be honest, bro.
Yeah.
Look, I've been working so hard the last week, and not being as fun a dad as I would like to be. Just sort of aiming to, aiming to hit this show with something that was, not going to break, and I could demo properly. So I managed to do that. So I'm happy that I've sort of achieved that. And there was, particularly with the Matrix screen, there was a couple of sort of technical hurdles to overcome with that. Getting 196 LEDs to all animate correctly. The text ticker that goes around, had to be written by hand. So I needed to, calculate where the text was on the thing and, move it around by a certain amount each time. And so getting all of that stuff to work with everything else and not have it sort of fall over each other was really tricky. So yeah, I'm glad I did that, and good that it demoed okay without.
I proposed this to Davey about a week ago, and I know he's been pushing hard. He just got the machine. I think you said you've only got about 10 plays, which is a sorry state of affairs, but it's how it goes.
Yeah. So I'm actually looking forward to, because the other thing is as well, I didn't want to massively play test it to death, just in case there were any problems and I couldn't demo it during the show. So since installing it, I've left it. But I'm looking forward to post show, just actually having some time with Jaws and starting to learn the rules, which I find quite complex.
And I think you've got a bunch of media going live right after the show, if not right now already, right? You've got it all kind of queued up. So if you guys want to see that in full detail, I think it's going to be out there real soon.
Yeah, I think the YouTube video goes live at 11 UK time. So when the show finishes, the YouTube video will go live. And then at the same time, I'll be getting the Pinside threads up. But if you do want to jump on the list now, then the website is open to do so.
Awesome. So you're going to be talking about this mod kind of throughout the show today, right?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive, aren't we, into how we produce mods. So I think the first element on the agenda that we were going to look at is a program called Fusion 360.
Hang on, you're getting ahead on me. You're getting ahead on me.
Am I getting too ahead?
You're okay. I get to go first. It's my time to have this.
Sorry. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna shift gears. I was kind of creating a thing where it's like, hey, this next part might not be as interesting to you, but we're gonna get back to the Jaws mod, I promise.
I was jumping ahead, man, but it was the way that you introed me. I was like, oh crap, I've missed my cue.
Well, I gotta change locations, remember? So we gotta get to that point, and I'm gonna run, and no, you're not gonna get to see that, but that will be happening. We've got a bunch of stuff to show you guys. I hope you find this interesting, whether you're a mod maker, whether you guys get our stuff, or whether you're just curious. Like, we're hoping to kind of share some details. It's going to stay kind of high level just because we've got a lot to cover. But also, we can also get into more detail if you guys want. So I wanted to talk about kind of like early stage stuff for us in terms of how we kind of early on conceptualize things. So for the Big Lebowski topper that we did, I'm going to start off by sharing the original graphic. So my partner Alec and I were kind of talking about this, and he shared this image with me off of Pinterest, and we both kind of fell in love with what this represented, especially with like the bowling alley for Lebowski. So visuals is definitely a key part of how we start off, and we typically collect a number of visuals and we give that to the artist to start concepting. This is our early concept shot for the Big Lebowski topper. So we were pretty prescriptive, saying like we wanted the pins this way. We educate the artist on like how the game works in terms of collecting the characters, collecting the bowling ball, and just ask for a really early sketch to get a feel for what direction it's going, and also just the sizing of things. I mean, this is a pretty big topper. This model in particular, I think, was at about 15 inches, and we ultimately got it down to about 12 and a half or so, but definitely a lot of iteration there through that. Ultimately, all that artwork is broken down into pieces, and later on in the show, we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of how this stuff is cut and how that works, but basically everything is kind of spread out and ultimately cut into parts, and that kind of creates the ultimate final product. But before we get to that point, there's definitely a lot of prototyping involved. So this is for our Godzilla topper. This is like a very early version of it. And this is actually done in mat board or out of cardboard. So we'll typically, just to get a feel for this, like we'll literally print this out, cut it, put it on top of the machine, kind of get a feel for just how the sizing works out. So just as much as we can do, like low cost, to get that to that point.
Sorry, mate. How do you cut that board?
Yeah.
Do you do it by hand or do you laser cut it?
So that's laser cut as well. So it's all kind of set on the laser bed. It's just with mat board, so it's a lot cheaper and also just easier to work with. Lots of more throwaway that can happen. And then we will sometimes move directly on to like getting the artwork printed. But in the case of Lebowski, we did a couple prototypes where we just did like using kind of scrap material. We built out a prototype for how it would be built structurally, just to kind of get a feel for, how it would perform under, shaking conditions and different things like that. I mean, how heavy it is, where things go. So by working with this material, not with the artwork on it, you're not distracted by like getting the cuts perfect, because sometimes that can be really challenging, and can really just like focus on the structure. So those are kind of two, phases that we go through. Before we get to this point, though, there is a lot of work done with the 3D model. So we use Tinkercad, which originally was a tool made for kids, but ultimately now is part of the Autodesk platform, still very kid-friendly. But this tool is how we really kind of figure out how everything comes together. The very first topper we didn't do anything like this, and there was just like a lot of back and forth and cutting that needed to be done to figure out how to do things. But this literally allows us to kind of make decisions about, like in this case, like how many layers do we need and how all these pieces fit together. So for this piece in particular, there's literally I think a light strip inside here somewhere. So like this was a cavity so that light strip could fit in there. This has just been a really amazing tool for us to just kind of speed things up and get things very precise. One of the more complex components of Lebowski is what we call the node plate. So this is the piece that actually fits underneath the playfield. So to give you guys a better kind of look at how this works, basically, where's my thing here? So this plate that you see on the screen now actually slides down behind that large LED board. So you'll see kind of how it goes like into that spot. And then ultimately, once it's in there, these wires connect up to this node board that actually talks to the topper. So this has been a really, complex piece to build. I will show you guys kind of some of the parts here. And this is 3D printed, so you'll see these 3D printers behind us. We can very quickly go through iterations of how this works. So there's basically various cavities here where these wires slide through, and ultimately the way this works, which you'll see a little bit later in the show, is that these are light sensors, so they actually read the lights as they light up on the board. So prototyping, it goes well beyond, as I'm sure you appreciate, Dave, like the topper itself. There's a lot that goes into kind of how it hooks up and how it connects, and we try not to use 3D printers for too much because of how people feel about that material, but generally for stuff that goes like inside the topper or goes like inside the pinball machine, we use 3D printers for a lot of that.
Yeah, utility pieces basically rather than aesthetic ones. But I've not seen that. I've not seen that piece that you just showed that slides in behind the PCB. That's a very clever piece of kit, man.
So you're going to get to see that. You'll get to see that in full detail a little bit later too. Something we're really proud of. That's actually how Godzilla works as well. So a similar kind of piece fits under the board in the center of the playfield, and they're basically kind of like they're similar to night lights, but just kind of the opposite. So when the light comes on, it tells the topper to light a specific light. So in the case of Godzilla, there's about 15 of those sensors. In the case of Lebowski, there's 10 of them. So that's kind of like how it works early on. A lot of 3D modeling and kind of rapid prototyping as much as possible. And I know, Davey, you're doing some stuff in 3D as well through Fusion.
You cool? Yeah, which we
you want to move on to that?
Gonna get into.
All right.
Yeah, sure, man.
And I'm going to drop off for a minute, let Davey talk, and I'm going to show you guys some of the laser stuff we do here shortly. So, Davey, I'll let you take it away.
So Rob was just demoing Tinkercad, which is the tool that he uses to do all of his 3D modeling. But I use a tool called Fusion 360. Now, both of I don't know about Tinkercad, but Fusion 360 is certainly free to use for anybody that wants to start having a play around with it. And it's a fantastic tool. You can do some very sophisticated things. What I'm showing at the moment is a very early iteration of the buoy before we decided whereabouts in the playfield it was going to go. You can see the design of it is a fair bit different as well in comparison to the final one that we arrived at. This was a lot more simple, kind of just had sort of 4 struts holding up the top section here, and then sort of 4 straight struts to hold up the siren at the top. Because we hadn't decided whereabouts in the playfield it was going to go, I couldn't really design the water section at the bottom, to any sophisticated degree. So it was kind of just this rectangular pattern, and then we're going to work out later where it was going to go. That quickly gave way to this design. Once I'd spoken to Joel Engelberth over in the US, who had a JAWS, we sort of took a camera to it and tried to work out an area where it could go, and quickly worked out that the sign areas, which is what I was originally going to do, is just replace the sign entirely with a buoy. Neither location was optimal for a moving piece that required a motor, because the motor had to sit somewhere. It needed to have some kind of strut to move the buoy, and neither of those sign locations was really suitable. So we decided that the section around the fishing reel was going to be the best location to use, and came up with this design. You can see the water here is really chunky and wavy, and there's some rocks involved as well. It was kind of an early idea to sort of use some rocks in that sort of front location. We kind of ditched that idea in the end because it just it was hard to implement, would have required a lot of painting, and the end result wasn't going to look as good as if the whole area was lit with LEDs anyway. So we ditched that, moved to a lot more flatter water over this section here. You can see it's just got a much more sort of subtle ripple effect on that water, and then the buoy has changed design too, to sort of be a bit more in keeping with the movie type buoy, where it has these sort of cross struts, this kind of pattern on the upper struts here. And we quickly worked out as well that just putting in the LED matrix screen without a screen diffuser made it look like a Diamante bracelet. And so we wanted to get away from that as much as possible, and instead used a diffuser on this top section here, and found some really great materials to use there for that diffusion, so that essentially you can't really see that there's an LED matrix screen underneath there until it lights up. So it's a bit of a surprise factor when that comes into play. So Fusion 360, for anybody that wants to get into 3D modeling, Fusion 360 is such a great tool for learning that on, and it can be as sort of as simple or as complicated as you like, really. Now, the whole idea of it, the whole idea of 3D modeling, for anybody who's not familiar with it, is the idea of the very simple idea of creating a 2D sketch and then extruding that sketch. So if I just create a very simple sketch here of a square with a hole in it, like that, finish that sketch, then what I can do is then extrude that sketch on an axis. Now I'm going to extrude on the top axis, and hey presto, I've got a 3D object that I can then start working with. And you can do, obviously Fusion 360's got a lot of very sophisticated tools that you can use to do certain things, but on a very simple level, it's simply just the idea of creating a 2D sketch that you can then work with after that. And then once that 3D sketch, once that 3D body has been created, you can then use a different surface to create another sketch. So if I wanted to put a hole through this side, I could do that, create another sketch on that axis, on that plane, and then extrude that one through the middle to create a more complex object. And that's at a very basic level what 3D design is all about. Look, I've ruined my Tokyo Neon there by extruding it too far. But look, the Tokyo Neon was the first real thing that I worked on in Fusion 360. So, it doesn't take long to learn. There's a whole bunch of YouTube videos out there to teach you. And the modding community is very forthcoming and keen for more people to get involved in this sort of thing. So if you are interested in doing it, and you want some tips or pointers, then by all means, shoot us PM. Or if you're more interested in sort of us producing some more videos that sort of get into a bit more of the complexities of 3D modeling, then we can do that as well. Rob, I can see that you're back online, mate.
I'm back. Yeah, so I've moved. So I'm in my garage now, and this is where our laser cutter is. So we use a CO2 laser cutter to cut our acrylic pieces. There's really two main types of laser cutters, or at least that I know of, because I started with a diode laser cutter, which is actually a much more affordable model. There's one from a company called X Tools, which is about $1,000. The challenge with a diode laser is that it only cut through dark material. It won't cut through clear material, so you do need a CO2 laser to do that. They do make CO2 lasers much smaller than this one. Glowforge is a common one that folks are using quite a bit. This is by a company called Omtech, but this is kind of a key part of our process. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of tour of this area, if this works out okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. All right. So there's a couple things involved in doing laser cutting. The first is material. So material is a big thing for us. We've got 4 or 5 different materials we use. This yellow material you see here is for the outer wall of Lebowski. We've got mirror material. This comes in 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. Over here you'll see some of the pieces that are coming out of it. So this is a white opaque that we use for light displacement in the bull sign on that. This is a clear material, which is more affordable than the black and the opaque. So this is for an interior piece, and also, of course, lets the full light through. This is for Twilight Zone, actually like a black and white version that we're currently working on, but essentially we use a local printer here in the area in St. Louis that prints on this 2x4 sheet, and ultimately this sheet is fed into the bed of the laser cutter. So I'll give you guys a look at that. I've got this kind of set up to cut a piece for you guys. This particular laser cutter has 2 laser heads, so it can actually cut the same pattern twice. Right now they're kind of pretty close together, but ultimately if you offset this over here, you can kind of imagine these guys moving in sequence. This red dot is simply for alignment, so that's not the laser itself. The way this works is, so this is a pretty large file, but if I zoom in here, you'll start to see, some of the elements for one of our toppers. So this is the back panel, and these are our cameras from Twilight Zone. So if I zoom into my work bed, bear with me. Bring it just up full screen too. There we go. We're going to actually cut out these pieces here, which are these cameras. So we're going to be hitting these 2 guys right here. There's a lot that goes into this machine. There's a water chiller, so this actually cools the laser heads. There's an air vent system that kind of runs through the garage. There's a filter system that we filter the air because we're in a neighborhood. But basically, I'll go ahead and kick off a quick cut for you guys. Let's see. So this is moving along a vector path, a vectored path. There's some alignment that happens before we get this started. You'll kind of see those, or where the alignment occurs. So this is going to cut pretty quick. I mean, it can cut a full sheet in about 30 or 45 minutes, depending on the thickness of the material.
Very satisfying to watch, Rob.
It is. It's nice because you're working and it's doing the work for you. So the alignment on this wasn't great because I was kind of in a rush, but you kind of get a look at how that comes out. And a lot of the plastics that you're working with, in your pinball machines you're working on, it is pretty similar to this, or at least I have a theory they're done in a similar way. The offset is because if you cut directly along the art, 1, it's hard to get it cut perfect, and 2, it'll chip off the edges. So that's kind of a key reason that it's done that way. 1, 2, 3. So here's.
Do you send the acrylic to your printer, and then he prints directly onto the acrylic, rather than?
Yeah, he does. So this is the full sheet. Basically, you send the artwork, and you don't really send the cut lines, right? But you make sure you save that information, so you'll kind of see these like various registration marks. And ultimately, when you open up the file, you'll have that cut line around it, and then you'll typically cut, everything at once or together.
Yep, I see.
All right. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
All right.
All right. So this is a really fun part of the process, and you saw the clear one that I showed earlier. Same concept, just without the artwork on it, because again, it kind of makes it easier to really get through the prototyping phase without getting distracted with getting the artwork, cut perfectly.
Now, you guys have been building PCBs, haven't you, since? Well, was there one on Twilight Zone? Did you have a PCB that was driving Twilight Zone?
No, we didn't, but we have since then. And obviously you've been doing that for a while. Yep. Yeah,
that's right, yep. So we're going to talk a little bit about circuit board design and how that's done. Rob's jumped off, so he's changing rooms again. So let me just pull up. Okay, so this is the tool I use to design PCBs. So one of the big Chinese PCB manufacturers is called JLC PCB. That's who I use to fabricate all my PCBs. and they've got a companion piece of software that's called Easy EDA, which is a great tool. It's all in the cloud, so all your designs are saved there, and you can use that to create PCBs very, very easily. Now, the great thing about the fact that Easy EDA and JLC are, companions, I suppose, is that all of the parts that you use and everything that goes into your BOM can be pulled straight off the JLC PCB parts library. So you're essentially ensuring that all of the parts that you're using on your PCB will be available for fabrication when you pull the trigger. And likewise, when you are ready to pull the trigger, it's just a case of pressing a button and getting your circuit board designed. So this is the original Tokyo Neon sign. It's the back of the PCB where the controller sits. So you can see that's a sort of a 3D image of what the circuit board looks like. The controller, which is the ESP8266, which is a Wi-Fi controller, microcontroller, is up in the corner here, and you can see the antenna up there. And if we wanted to order that PCB, then it would just be a case of fabricate, check DRC, one-click order, PCB, click OK. That shoots us off into JLC PCB, and hey presto, it loads up all the Gerber files. The BOM will be in the background. We can select, you can see our circuit board design there. We can select how many we want, what the PCB thickness is, what color we would like for that PCB to be. Of course, black is the coolest color for PCBs. Everybody knows that, and so always make it black. And then you tick assembly, and away you go. You move through that process. So it's a very, very easy way to fabricate PCBs, and very, very, joined up process. When there has been a bunch of other PCB manufacturers that have been sort of around promoted amongst the pinball community, particularly for people who do a lot of DIY builds, such as the pin to DMD and the afterglow boards and things. Companies like PCBWay, and they do offer a very good service, but typically there's a lot more legwork involved in specifying what the BOM is. They'll send you an Excel spreadsheet with, when you need to replace certain parts. So it's very onerous. There's a lot more room for error. Whereas using Easy EDA in conjunction with JLC, does ensure a much smoother process, and that's been invaluable when you're producing these things at high numbers, like I've been doing. So what I thought might be fun is to just sort of demo, if we wanted to just make a very simple PCB that was a single RGB LED on a circuit board with a connector that could be, plugged in like any sort of LED strip, any addressable LED strip. I thought we'd put that together and show you how it was done. So I've just got this new design here with an outline for the PCB, which is the purple here, and a common LED that I use on my Tokyo Neon. Each of these pads on the LED has got a designation. It's got a 5-volt power input, a ground footing, and then DI, which stands for data in, and DO, which stands for data out. The way addressable LEDs work is that they are all connected to each other, so that the first LED is address 1, second LED is address 2, etc., etc. We'll just do one RGB LED on this circuit board. We'll put in a ground plane. So I'll just draw that in. That means that the entire upper section will be connected to ground. We'll put that on the bottom layer, and then just for the sake of making things simple, I'll put another one in on the top layer, which will be a 5-volt plane. and then we need to connect it to something. So off to the parts library I'll go, pick up a common 3-pin connector that I use all the time, which is called JSTPH connector. It's the same one that Comet uses for all of their matrix connectors. And literally because Comet was such a major company doing incredible things, I just copied the same connector that they did back in the early days, and I've been using it ever since. Hop over to the library, put in that code. Oh, great. So it doesn't have that one. Let's find another one quickly. That one will do. Copy that JLCP part number. Paste it back in here. Why isn't it finding anything? I don't know whether it's my internet connection or something doing funny things. Let's try one more time. There we go. Okay, so that's just a common connector. We'll twizzle it around so that it's facing the right way. I usually, let's just check in 3D which direction these things are traveling. Okay, so I usually make sure that pin 1 is 5 volts. So I will click on that pin, change the net of that to 5 volts. Change the second pin net to ground, and the third one to DI. Now you'll notice we haven't connected DI here to DI of the RGB LED yet. So let's just say I forgot to do that, and I tried to fabricate it. All right, let's just save it. Something. Save it anywhere. Okay, and we tried to fabricate that design. Yes, check DRC. All right, and it's giving me an error, which is great. It's telling me that I have not connected all my bits and pieces correctly. So I need to connect ground to the ground plane, and I'll use a via to do that because the ground is on the bottom. So red is the top layer, but I've got a via connecting that trace to the ground. So now ground is connected there, and I'll connect DI to the LED, and now there's no more errors. So that's a great feature to make sure that you don't fabricate something that's not going to work, essentially. It could still not work, obviously, but this will eliminate things like cross traces, parts being too close to each other, legs touching, those kinds of things. So it removes a lot of the things that could potentially cause mishaps. So that's all ready to fabricate now. And you can see I've just very easily created a single RGB LED with a little connector that I can connect up to my Arduino or whatever, and I can fabricate it as many times as I like. So that's a very quick crash course into JLC PCB and easy EDA. And in a similar way that Fusion 360 has a ton of YouTube videos available to teach how to do this. There's a plethora of circuit board and circuit design tutorials out there if you want to learn how to do this. And likewise, there's a lot of people out there who can assist and will be happy to assist you if you want to embark on the very fun hobby that is making PCBs.
Yeah, JLPCB is awesome. Like the turnaround that those guys do. I know there's a few out there like that, but we use them as well. Uh-oh, my screen's acting up again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say, and I love JLC PCB as well. They have facilitated my ability to produce these things at scale, and that's awesome. The only thing I'll say is if they make any mistakes, it's very difficult to negotiate with them through those mistakes. They don't, and I don't know whether it's a Chinese culture thing or not, but admitting culpability is a very difficult thing to get companies like that to do. And I have found this a very similar thing with a lot of my Chinese suppliers. I think it might be a saving face thing or whatever, but it's just something to watch out for. They will eventually come around to it, but it does take some pushing.
Awesome. You good with me moving on, or you got a few more things on that one?
Yeah, man. All yours,
Okay,
buddy. All
cool.
yours.
I got lots of boards to show off as well. So we're here in our shop now. This is where we do the main assembly for our toppers. And a big focus for us is building, smaller pieces of the puzzle and bringing them into the larger piece, just from an efficiency perspective. That's really, really key for us. And of course, that takes a decent amount of space. So this isn't a large amount of space. Typically, when we're working on a topper, we'll kind of set up the area specifically for that topper. And then when we're ready to work on another one, or re-engage in another one. So it's not too dissimilar than what you hear about with like Stern, like what's on the line. It is key to kind of use the space and the components, as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to walk around a little bit and show you guys a few things. Just turn the camera around. 1, 2, 3. All right. The space is kind of broken up into different areas. A lot of it revolves around our 3, key workstations. So each team member that's working on assembly often specializes in certain things. This area right here is where Keith, who's building out assemblies for our pins. So each of these, there's a left and a right pin. These are built in bulk, to make it efficient, and we do that with other components as well. So these are the bases and the back panels for Lebowski. These are the node plates that we had talked about earlier, so you can see these coming together. I mean, a lot of work here in terms of labeling and connecting, but doing that in bulk really helps. This is kind of the various components and a few of the assemblies for Lebowski. These are some of the boards that we use, also done through JLPCB. So this is the bowling light assembly, all addressable RGBs. This is the bowl sign LED panel. This is the chip board where the Arduino sits and various power is connected, as well as the RJ45 that talks to that element underneath the playfield we showed earlier. This is the element underneath the playfield, and then this is the Arduino chip that controls this. So in the case of Lebowski, you've got animated bowling sign, and then these status lights, all 10 of them light up based on different settings or different things activated. So this piece right here, actually, you saw that clear piece with the crown earlier. This LED board sits on the back of that. So this is all built out as an assembly. This is an assembly here for the status lights, and then we talked about the bowling pins, and then we've got the back panel, and then this is the accessory kit. So there's quite a bit involved with this, including this piece. Couple other, I guess, kind of areas of the shop. These are, more assemblies being built. This over here is kind of where Twilight Zone is living until it kicks back into the queue. And then we've got some metal working back here. So all of these poles are what provides the support for Lebowski, and then these metal brackets is what actually affixes to the top of the machine. So that's cut just on a standard drill press. We've got a lot of screws and small parts. So those are all kind of arranged as, organized way as possible throughout the shop. This area is for wiring. This area is for connectors and washers. And then we've got a lot of different lengths of screws and nuts and bolts. Like, there's a lot of precision involved in building these. And then we've got a pile of a lot of stuff that needs to be sorted, which tends to happen quite a bit. So I'm going to turn this around, show you guys how this 1, 2, 3. There we go. So I've got the Lebowski topper here. This one has a clear back. So we we use this as kind of a reference device. So normally this is black, but you can see the node board, or I'm sorry, the logic board and the logic chip that controls the topper. This lighting that you see running through here actually, illuminates that side panel. And then this is a device. This is a relay switch that actually turns on the topper when the machine is on. There's some lights embedded here in this crown. There's an LED strip in each of these pins. And then we've got that main bowl sign, lights here, and then the status. So you'll see none of these are on. And earlier we talked about this panel that sits inside the pinball machine. If I actually, take this flashlight and hit these lights, you're going to start to see those on. So you'll see the Jesus pin, the Jesus light going on with that. It's on a 2-second delay, so it actually has to hit for about 2 seconds before it turns on. But that's basically how it works. So if I do a close-up on this, you'll kind of see inside each of those cavities are these little sensors. And we actually ended up building this kind of wall around it because some of these sensors were actually picking up different lights in the machine. So there's definitely, like I said, been a lot that goes into making this work. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we're, effectively, we're reverse engineering and getting that status from the pinball machine so we can show that on the topper.
Have you experimented much with RGB light sensors yet?
No, I haven't. Well, tell me about that.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, so Jaws has got RGB GI. So usually the way that I sort of manage GI for mods is that when the GI goes off, the mod goes off too, to sort of make it a bit more integrated. But obviously that sort of is a bit more complex when the GI is RGB, because obviously it can still be on or off, but it's controlled by 3 pins rather than just one. So it's not as, and then also if it goes green, if the GI goes green, you sort of want the mod to do something along those lines as well. So I've been looking into RGB light sensors for the buoy, so that it can respond to the RGB GI. And I get the feeling that sort of Stern will probably go in that direction, every game from now on, I would imagine. So it'd be good to have a solution for it. I think I remember during your seminar presentation at Expo, somebody asked the same question, didn't they?
Yeah, no, you're triggering my memory now. We haven't found a solution. I mean, I think through like machine learning and things like that, it's definitely possible. It's just a matter of a more complex sensor and then training it to, look for those different light variations. I do think that to achieve some of the things that, you're going to want to achieve in terms of knowing a state of the game, like getting to that point would be, super valuable for sure.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. But yeah, very cool, man. One other comment I wanted to make is that your workshop is annoyingly clean and unmessy.
Yeah, that's I guess my personality in terms of wanting to know where everything is. It's funny because at the same time our team is always like, we don't know where anything is because you're constantly reorganizing. But like I said, like shifting over things, and also like keeping a count on this stuff is a big part of it. I mean, we try to do our best in terms of like monitoring what comes in, but we're changing parts sometimes. We're kind of, so a lot of like keeping it organized is also just to know like how many you have, because they can definitely get away from you. Yeah.
And that is surprisingly, and it's something you never think about with this stuff, but as soon as you start having a bomb of a certain size and your orders get to a certain size so that, your stock levels increase, it gets more and more complex. And as you said, like maybe partway through a build, you might replace one part with another part. And so you need to keep the old parts for, the supply of customers that might have had that first iteration, and then the new part for the second. And so and then, the other thing is too, stock comes in, you might forget to log that in whatever, logging mechanism you have, or somebody builds something and forgets to decrease it from your stock count as well. And so there's this constant battle of trying to keep everything in tune. And it's incredibly complex, so much more so than I thought it would be, sort of embarking on this journey in the first place.
Yeah. With Lebowski, we're building roughly 130, including the wall art version that we're doing, all at the same time, which has like a combination of things that makes it more simple because you've got all these parts and ready to go, but also it's like, where are you going to put them? And then also, how are you kind of moving them? And how many are you building at a time? Because like at one point I was thinking like, let's just build all 100 of these, but it's like, that's a crazy amount of time and keeps us from actually getting, product out the door. So it's like, even if you've got all the parts, you're still working in batches, which is a pretty, interesting challenge to tackle.
Yes, it is. But impressive stuff, man. I love your workshop, and I've said this
Thanks.
before, and I'll say it again. I'm very jealous, and I want one. But I want you to design it too, because you've got like cool, like industrial sort of aesthetics that, like with your lighting and stuff. Don't think it doesn't go unnoticed.
Well, it's just moving up and up and up, and it's the aesthetic is getting compromised with the stuff. But yeah, that's the next step, is like looking at how do we expand and the best way to do that, and what that means from a downtime perspective. So not a problem that isn't typical with making things.
No,
but certainly a good problem, I guess.
I'm in the same boat. Looking for a proper workshop space, and I'd love it to be within the area. I live in an area of London called South Woodford, and it's really nice because it's sort of, it's on the central line, so you can get to the city really quickly if you need to, but then we've also got forest and sort of green areas. So, it's great for raising a family. And because I work from home, I'd ideally love somewhere that was within walking distance, and obviously it's going to house, all the pins as well. So I'd like it to be within walking distance so that, I get to go and play them often. But
yes,
finding a suitable space around here is proving incredibly difficult. So it's a challenge for this year to try and sort that out.
There were 3 pinball machines here, and then 2, and then 1, and now there's none. It was the way it goes. But
that's sad. That's sad.
Part of the hobby, part of the experience. So guys. So we're really excited to share these details with you. I know we kind of burned through some stuff quickly. If there's anything that you'd like to know more about, we can always kind of inject that into an episode. So definitely hit us up, and we'd love to go deeper on these things. It'll probably be a while before we do another one of these, but like I said, we can always hit a topic if you'd like. And then we've got a great episode lined up for next show, which is 2 weeks from now. I believe, Davey, we're bringing on a fellow mod maker and doing another interview.
We are, mate. Yeah, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but there'll definitely be a top tier mod maker amongst us talking about all the amazing things that they're up to. And then we don't have any definites yet, but we've possibly got someone very exciting for a couple of weeks after that as well. But everything unconfirmed at this point, but I'd love to be able to pull it off, because he'll have some very interesting things to say, so I'm really hoping that we can manage that.
Absolutely. So guys, keep an eye out. We'll be back 2 weeks from now, which I think is May 6th. So around the same time, we got an interview lined up for that one, and then another one after. So keep an eye out. Check us out on the socials. Davey, thank you so much for sharing on our show. Breaking news, the Jaws mod. Very, very cool. Very excited to check that out.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was good fun, and I'm glad it all worked properly, and hope everyone liked it. I'm off now to push the button on my email marketing and my Pinside thread and making sure the YouTube videos. So it's now 11 o'clock in London. I'm not sure what time I'll get to bed. Possibly 1.
You gonna get a game of Jaws in too?
Mate, I think I'm definitely going to get a game of Jaws in. I'm just going to belt the crap out of it.
We all want that to happen. Davey, take care, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's been a great show, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
See you guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.